everyone. Welcome back to the Resilience Key podcast with me, your host, Steph Corbell. As always, I'm stoked to be here with you today to explore yet another topic designed to help you channel your inner grit into personal growth. Today is a short, abbreviated episode with what I think is an important and powerful message, so I'm just going to jump right into it right now. Let me ask you all a question. What is likely the one thing you carry with you at all times, including into the bedroom at night, sometimes into the bathroom, hey, don't lie to me here, and that you might panic if you can't find it? Let's think about this. It's your phone, right? Before I go too much further here, let me say the irony of me talking about this while relying on folks to find me on their smartphones is somewhat deep, but it is telling. So I'm a Gen Xer born in 77, and I'm part of the last generation to grow up without computers and the internet. And I say this to myself all the time, thank God social media wasn't around when I was in school. The bullying was bad enough for me in person, so that I can't even imagine what it would be like for bullied kids now when you add that online element into the mix. And I will admit that I'm a bit of a Luddite on a personal level. I'm honestly, sounds ironic, but I'm not much of a fan of being online. But at the same time, I know how much online presence has enriched my life. And if it weren't for social media, my husband and I wouldn't be together right now, for example. We actually met through an online forum way back before Facebook was even that popular. So rest assured, this podcast episode is not a rant against technology. However, I'm all for having good boundaries with tech, and that's what this episode today is actually about. When something becomes omnipresent, folks start to have certain expectations of communication. You know what I mean? And if you're connected all the time, well, then you might think you owe it to others to always reply immediately or respond or simply be present online. The way that social media works really feeds into this. I'm a business owner. You'll know this if you're a regular listener of the podcast. And unless you own a business that's either super established or has this established niche consumer or customer base already, you basically have to be on social media to drum up new business or leads. It's just a non-negotiable in the current marketplace. And personally, at times I resent that, but what can you really do? If you're a business owner, it gets hard to disconnect. And what happens when you try to do that? Okay, well, people have theories about all these various social media algorithms, and frankly, I'm sorry, but no one actually knows what's up with those algorithms except for the few folks that are in charge of programming them. Anecdotally, though, I can tell you this. If you run social media for a business and you take even a few days completely off and you don't respond to anything, like your comments, your messages, the next time you post something, you will see a huge decrease in your metrics. It doesn't matter what the platform is. Additionally, if you don't, quote, engage, meaning scroll through stuff and comment, like, whatever, you're also going to see a lack of engagement on what you post at best, and at worst, literally the algorithm won't even show what you post to your followers. I'm not kidding, this is a real thing. In short, the system with social media is all set up to keep you continually engaged and sucked into scrolling. That is just what it is. I'm not making statements of whether or not this is good or bad. It just, again, is what it is. But that's where the challenge comes, and I'm speaking as a business owner. It's when you need to take a break, which we all do, because after you take that break, it takes a while to bounce back and start to see your leads pour back in. I am not a social media expert, I just use it all the time. But what I see and have experienced is this. The more we engage online on these platforms, the more we feel on some level that we might owe it to others to stay connected all the time. Like if we take time off, we owe our followers an explanation. I mean, don't we all have that one friend who said at some point, okay, I'm deleting this account now, this is my last post, only to have a bazillion friends beg them to come back, and it turns into this whole thing back and forth, and then they come back like 2 days later. We all know that person. I mean, hey, I will admit it, I've even been that person. The point here today is, I don't think that this cycle is healthy for any of us. I really don't. Also, I think one of the greatest challenges today is not to let our phones, whether or not it's on social media or on the phones itself, or by constantly scrolling news or email or whatever you do, the challenge is not to let our phones run our lives. So today I'm challenging you to put that phone down after you finish this podcast. Or, hey, don't even finish listening. Do it now. Whatever works. I'm okay with you doing that too. A few weeks ago, I had tickets to the opera, which, yes, I know is somewhat unrelatable for y'all, but there's a point here. I love going to the opera more than I possibly can tell you, and it's just been my thing since I was a kid. Anyhow, this opera had a short 60-second break between the first and second act, where this curtain comes down and they do a set change backstage. The lights stayed off, and it was just meant as this quick little breather reset. But guess what? Almost every single person around me in the audience grabbed their phone and turned it on to check something. I'm not kidding. In a dark opera house, it was pretty obvious to see the glow of everyone's phone. And to me, that was, what? We can't sit for more than 60 seconds without grabbing our phones? It's become a reflex on top of an obligation, this connectivity. Think about it. When you have downtime in line at Target, do you go reaching for your phone? What about when you're sitting down just having your morning coffee? Do you reach for your phone? Or when you're at your dinner table with your kids? Is your phone sitting right there beside you? This week, I challenge you to be aware of how often you reach for that phone unconsciously. I'm actually about to go on vacation with my husband for the first time in years, and I am challenging myself to do the same. The only moment we truly have is the present, right? I talk about this all the time on the podcast. Ask yourself, how often am I missing out on the present moment, often with a loved one, because I'm reaching for my phone? Think about it. I know I will be. That's it for this week, short and sweet. If this resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. You can reach out to me through my website at stephcorbell.com, Corbell. And yes, ironically, I do have plenty of social media accounts. I'm on Instagram at Steph Corbell, and I'm on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at The Resilience Key. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next week, remember that you're more resilient than you realize, and you're stronger than you know.